Have you ever listened to a song and the vocals are very quiet, whispering almost?
I've got quick eyes.
And then out of nowhere, the volume jumps a crazy amount.
I've got quick eyes.
It hurts and it kind of sucks. That difference between peaks is called dynamic range, and we have one very important tool to help control that. It's called compression. All right, so what is compression? In the simplest terms, it's automatic volume control. So you set a threshold at a certain level, and if a track peaks above that, the compressor will turn it down. If there are certain parts of that track that don't peak, it leaves it alone. So instead of having to ride the fader of a vocalist or drums or bass or guitar or whatever have you, the compressor can take care of some of that for us. So the first control you need to understand is threshold. Threshold is the level that you set where your compressor will start to kick in. So you look at something like a dynamic vocal take like this. There are lots of peaks and valleys, and there are some very high peaks, right? This is an uncompressed vocal track. There's nothing on this at all. You can see some of those peaks spiking pretty high. This is a waveform of a compressed vocal track, the same vocal track, just compressed. Notice how those peaks have been brought into under control. So I'll show you how this looks. I'll play for you.
Grace the walls with this substance that brings just a
And as I adjust the threshold,
full of good intentions. Grace the walls with this substance that brings just a thimble full of good intentions.
notice as I adjust the threshold, it grabs more and more of the signal and compresses it. The next control to worry about is the ratio. The ratio simply tells the compressor how aggressively to attack the signal. So I have my ratio set at 2:1 right now, pretty standard.
Grace the walls with this substance that
soft.
brings just a
But if I increase it to, say, 10 to
thimble
1,
full of good intentions.
you can see how
Grace
much
the
more aggressive it
walls
grabs the
with
signal.
this
Okay, here's something that trips a lot of people up. The idea of makeup gain. So I have my compressor set normal. I haven't adjusted my output gain at all. So this is what it sounds like compressed.
Grace the walls with this substance that brings
But if I bypass
just
the compressor,
a thimble full of good intentions.
notice how the volume jumps drastically, right? So what we do is we use this output, or on some compressors it's called a makeup gain, to match the level. Louder doesn't necessarily mean better in this situation. What you want is you want your compressed level to match your input level. So if I do that here,
Grace the walls with this substance that brings just a thimble full of good intentions. Grace the
so I have matched the level. That way my signal is still compressed and I don't have those peaks, but my actual straight level volume is the same now. Now let's listen to a dry vocal and a compressed vocal back to back so you can hear the difference, especially the peaks. Here it is dry.
Grace the walls with this substance that brings just a thimble full.
Okay, that's dry. You can hear the peaks. You can hear it's kind of out of control. Now we're going to turn on the compressor, and I want you to watch the waveforms, especially in those big moments, like when he says thimble.
Grace the walls with this substance that brings just a thimble full of.
So you saw it there, right? The compressor has clamped down on those peaks and made it a much smoother listening experience, but we volume matched so we don't lose the level. The next control to talk about is attack. Attack can alter the entire character of the compressor you're using. Basically, you have your threshold, right? And as soon as your signal crosses that threshold, attack determines how fast it clamps back down on it. So this is the transient. I'm going to use a snare to show you this because it's very, very apparent what it's doing. So as the snare hit crosses that threshold, a fast attack will clamp down on the transient, and a slow attack will let some of that ring through. So this is what it sounds like without any of that compressor on. All right, now let's turn on the compressor, and I will show you a very slow attack versus a very fast attack versus a very slow attack. Very slow attack right here. Very fast attack here. Okay, here are two different waveforms. This is a fast attack. This is a slow attack. Notice the difference in transients and what's being allowed to last earlier on. So I'm going to play you back to back, and we'll go back and forth a little bit with a fast and a slow attack. You can hear the slow attack has a much more of a pronounced pop sound. The other half of that equation is the release. The release determines how quickly the compressor stops altering the signal after it falls. So a fast release can add some movement and energy, and a slower release seems more smooth and controlled. And I'll show you right now on the same track of drums. You see up here how quickly it's recovering, and then you can see the stretch right here. Now we're with the basics. Let's talk about serial compression. Serial compression is just you stack one compressor behind another one. So you don't have to always have one compressor do all the work, like catch all the big peaks and then also try to smooth everything out. Sometimes we use one compressor just to catch the big peaks, and then we choose a different compressor, usually with a little bit of a different character, to smooth out what's left. Here is our dry vocal by itself.
Grace the walls with this substance that brings just.
And we're going to throw on our first compressor just to control those peaks.
Grace the walls with this substance that brings just a thimble full of good.
So it's just grabbing the tips of those peaks, getting about 3 to 5 dB of gain reduction. And then to smooth the rest of it out, we're going to throw on our 1176. So here it is without the 1176.
Good intentions. Grace the walls with this substance that brings just a thimble full of good in.
Now that may be hard to see exactly what's going on, so let's show you this. Here is our dry vocal. You can see all of our peaks, right? Now let's scan down to our compressed vocal. Notice how everything is pretty much the same, but these peaks are being controlled a little bit better, right? Especially right here. Now we go down here to our vocal with all of them on, and you see the peaks are controlled, and then a little bit better control here as well. So we have control of major peaks with our Pro C2 or 3, and then we have control of our smaller peaks with slightly less compression through 1176. And that way, each of those compressors has a single job they have to do. The next thing to talk about is parallel compression. Parallel compression is, instead of compressing your direct signal, what you do instead is you send the signal somewhere else and you compress the crap out of that and then you blend it together. There are two different ways to do that. I'm going to show you both of them right now. Now, I mainly use parallel compression with my drums, especially my drum bus. It does a really good job of making the kit feel like it's all in the same room and kind of more connected. So this is a drum track with no compression on it at all. All right, now I'm going to open up Smash and Grab, and we're going to look at how this sounds hard compressed. When we do parallel compression, you really hit it hard. I mean, we're going 20 to 1 here, as opposed to 2 to 1 or 4 to 1 like usual. So this is with it getting hit super hard. Right, you can hear it almost pumping motion, and it obviously sounds destroyed. It doesn't sound good. Now, there are two different ways to handle this. Here is one way, which is, since it's just drums, I have one drum track down here that is my dry drums, and then I have a track down here that's also my crushed drums. And what I can do is blend it up slowly. So we'll do that now. Here it is without anything, and we'll slowly start to blend it in. Right? And so you can feel it become more full. The idea of parallel compression is not necessarily to hear it, you want to feel it. So if you're just doing drums and that's it in a session, creating just a separate track and crushing that works really well. But if you're in a full mix situation, what you probably should do, what I like to do, is to create an effects send. All right, so you create an effects send, and what I'll do is I'll take my settings from before, paste them in there. And so now what you do then is you set it up so that you have to go into your drums, and you're going to send it. You're going to send the signal. You get to determine how much of that signal goes. For this, I'm just going to put 100%. Turn it on, and then it'll have the same effect as what we just did with the fader, but we're going to fade in the signal instead. And that works better, I think, in a full mix. So the goal is to find where it adds body and weight without being able to hear it so much. So I'm going to play you a little back to back. It's going to switch between regular drums and parallel compressed drums. As you can hear, parallel compression can really add weight and body to your drums without destroying them completely. So the next kind of compression we're dealing with is what's called sidechain compression. Now, sometimes you have two different signals that are vying for the same frequency, and they can kind of blur each other. Specifically, we see that with kick drum and bass, and we sometimes see it with guitars and snare. And so I'm going to show you exactly how we handle that right now. First, let's look at the frequency that our kick drum is occupying. Sitting right here between 50 and 100, okay? Now, let's look at the frequency that our bass is occupying. Also right there between 50 and 100. A little bit higher up, but same basic area. So, if you play them together, you're going to hear that the kick drum gets kind of masked by the bass. Like, you can kind of hear it, but you want it to be more pronounced. So, what we would do then is we would open up Compressor, set it however you want. I've got mine at a 4:1 ratio. My attack is very small. My release is, not very high either. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn it on, and then what we do is we activate sidechain, and then we link it to our kick bus. So this goes directly on the bass bus. And by linking this through a sidechain situation, what you get is that every time the kick drum hits, our bass will duck. Not for very long, just enough that the pop of the kick drum comes through the mix. So I'll show you on and off. See it right here reacting to the kick drum. It doesn't really destroy the bass signal at all because it recovers quickly, but just enough that pop comes through. And I'm showing it to you just bass and drums right now, but in a full mix, this can really make a big difference with your kick popping through the mix. Okay, here's a little cheat sheet for you, and I'll link it down in the description if possible. Threshold determines when compression starts. Ratio determines how aggressively it compresses. Attack controls how quickly it reacts. Release controls how quickly it lets go. Makeup gain brings your level back up to match your original. Serial compression lets multiple compressors share the workload. Parallel compression adds density, but you don't lose the original punch of the signal. And sidechain compression lets one signal control the compression of the other. Remember, compression isn't about making everything flat. It's about controlling dynamics so you can shape the way your tracks behave. If this was helpful in understanding compression, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.